Hello team and welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS. This is Ukraine War Update Extra video, giving you extra tidbits and nuggets to get your teeth into to give you a greater understanding of the war in Ukraine. And I'm going to talk only about one topic and hopefully not for too long for you. And that's concerning Putin and how his existence is connected to the outcome of the conflict in Ukraine. And this is in response to a question from Matt Bishop on one of the threads today. And I thought, and I sort of very quickly gave my answer, which is aligned to what I'm going to say now. But I thought I might as well talk about this. I have mentioned this before. This is nothing new. If you've listened to every single word I've ever said, then you will know what I'm going to say. But I know there's a lot of new viewers and repetition is useful to remind ourselves of these ideas. So what I want to lay out quickly is that if Russia lose in this war, if Ukraine prevail, it doesn't greatly affect Russia at all. What I mean by that is that Russia will continue existing as an entity. It might be a little bit embarrassed. It might have to, come back to the international community with its tail between its legs, head bowed and say, look, sorry about that. That was a bit of a mistake. We'd like to do business again. But its existence will continue. It might have to morph a little bit. But it's not linked inextricably to the outcome of the conflict in Ukraine. However, Putin's existence is. If Ukraine prevail, if Ukraine win the war, and I have said this before, Putin cannot be in charge. There is no way you will have an outcome where Ukraine prevail and Putin still rules in Russia. There's no way he would accept any kind of loss of Russia. So he would suffer with a coup or a revolution or some way that he would be ousted, and the likelihood is he would either be kind of like, I don't know, end up in prison or lynched or I don't know, something, or end up dead or whatever, but it won't end well for him because he's so deeply involved in corruption, mired in corruption in Ukraine. In Russia, it's a kleptocracy. He is arguably the single richest human being on earth. I mean, we can talk about Elon Musk, we can talk about Bill Gates, but by all accounts, Putin outstrips them. It's just hidden very well, but he helps himself to all the hydrocarbons revenues. You look at his relatives, mistresses or partners or wife, daughters, family members or whatever, they suddenly have literally billions of dollars. Like, you can't wake up and have billions of dollars. It's got to come from somewhere. And it turns out that none of them have worked for it. So where has it come from? Well, it's come from Putin. How does the ruler of a country have that much money if they are, you look at people like Obama or Bush or Clinton and Cameron and Blair, right? These are all well-off people, right? They've run countries like the UK and the US, but they don't get paid massive amounts for doing it. They get paid a decent enough salary, but then they make their money from doing expensive like speaker circuits around the world. They've obviously got knowledge, so they're making sound investments and etc. etc. So they make their money that way. And you can argue about certain aspects here and there and insider trading and all that kind of stuff, but is nowhere near the level of Putin, which while he is in power has accrued phenomenal amounts of money, and people that are connected to him suddenly have phenomenal amounts of money, not just a bunch of money, crazy amounts of money. The palace that Alexei Navalny took drone footage over, and no one knew about it, but there's this kind of golden palace near the Black Sea that Putin owns and had built. This is phenomenally opulent, so on and so forth. So he's supposed to be the richest man in the world, which means that if there was a transfer of power, unless it was someone who was absolutely 100% beholden to Putin, I guess there's a possibility there that you're going to have a situation where there's a change of power, there's a change of political leadership in Russia, and we have this person there who has got his finger in every single Russian pie and is the richest man in the world off the back of that, and that can only be achieved by corruption. So, like, what do you do with that? So I don't think his existence, this is why people like that, people like dictators will change the rules so that they rule forever, because they know as soon as they stop ruling, that either there's no peaceful transfer of power, so they stop ruling because they're killed outright and someone else replaces them, or they are replaced, and then because of that kind of power dynamics going on there, and because of the history, they are like disappeared. You name me a dictator that goes into retirement, goes, oh, thank you very much, I'm just going to retire to my massive mansion that's completely opulent, and there'll be no problems, no one will find any issues with me, and they just go and live out the rest of their lives in next to a swimming pool. That just doesn't happen. Dictators end up dying one way or another, and so Putin has changed the rules such that he is effectively a dictator. That's why I call him a dictator now. And if he is ousted, that's him gone, and he probably knows that. And since if Russia lose the war, that's him gone, then that is his death or his imprisonment for the rest of his life. Which means that we get to something I've talked about before. I've done a video, I've written an article, I think, on this called the Putin Paradox, which is that the better Ukraine do, or the more likely it is that Ukraine are going to prevail and win. If the writing's on the wall, Putin's likely to do something stupid. Why is he going to do something stupid? Because if he doesn't do something stupid, he's going to die, or he's going to go to prison forever. So because there's that connection, his personal connection to the outcome of the war, he's likely to do something bonkers. And that's scary because obviously you start talking about nuclear button pressing. I know it's more complicated than that, and the likelihood of him being able to do that is slim to none. But you get the point. He's likely to do something or try to do something nuts, because if he doesn't, he's a goner. And so there is this very big, there's a big difference between Zelensky and Putin in that way. Like if Ukraine don't succeed in this war, unless, I mean, it depends. Like Zelensky has been existentially connected to the outcome of the war. At the beginning, it was like, I don't want a taxi, I want jets or whatever. Like I want ammunition, I want tanks, or whatever the saying was. But he was threatened with his life at the beginning of the war. But I think it's somewhat different now, and it's highly unlikely that Russia will be able to realise a maximalist intention on taking the whole of Ukraine and therefore getting Zelensky and killing him. So in some ways existentially linked, but I don't think in the same way that Putin is. It's the other way around. Arguably, Ukraine is existentially linked to the outcome of the war, where Russia isn't. But Putin is existentially linked to the outcome of the war, where Zelensky isn't so much. So there's that weird kind of cross-diagonal parallel there. It doesn't really make too much sense, but hopefully you understand what I'm trying to say. And I think it's really important to understand that existential connection to the outcome of the war that Putin has, in order to understand what decisions he might want to make. You're understanding the motivation for him deciding one way or another. It's I think this is hugely important, and something we always think other people, we too often think, I guess, other people are rational actors. And quite often we're not rational, we're emotional. In fact, Daniel Kahneman, the Nobel Prize winning economist, well, he's not an economist, Nobel Prize winning psychologist, but he got it for economics, pointed out, so the idea that free market economics is based on Homo economicus, the idea that human beings are perfectly knowledgeable and they're rational. So if we know all about different products, and we know all about the ramifications of demanding and consuming these products, and we know about everything to do with the markets, and we're all rational actors, and we're all going to make rational decisions. And then his life's work has been setting out that actually we're not rational decision makers. We have two systems of thinking, system one and system two, and we quite often, and we kind of need both to operate, but one without the other is pretty bad. And actually, we're very often irrational thinkers. And of course, if we're then irrational thinkers, then that makes a mockery of the foundations of free market economics, as far as the kind of Chicago boys and Milton Friedman and all these kind of people who are like, yeah, we're all perfectly knowledgeable and we're all rational and we're all going to make these great decisions and the market will be able to dictate everything, and it will make the right decisions and the world will be a lovely place, if we just let the market decide. And of course, that's not the case. It doesn't work. And when you look at people like Putin, you're thinking, yeah, he's a rational actor. It's like, yeah, maybe not so much. And when you understand that, actually, I mean, I suppose there's a rationality to that, isn't there? That hey, if I'm going to die if I don't do this, then I'm going to do this, right? So there is a rationality to that, but there's going to be a deep-seated emotional connection to this war. That will affect his psyche and will affect the way he's making decisions. And anyway, that was my stream of consciousness ramble. Hopefully it made sense. It is one, the existential connection to the outcome of the war with Putin, and two, the possibility or the probability that that's going to, if it goes Ukraine's way, more likely result in him making a bonkers decision. And the next question is, what bonkers decisions can he make? Can he realistically, press the red button, so to speak? What other crazy things can he order? And that you might think along the lines of, really properly hammering, Ukrainian civilian targets, or taking out Kiev, or sending the Air Force, or doing something really nuts. But then you have hopefully at least some checks and balances in the Russian MOD and the political landscape. But what's interesting, and I know I'm supposed to finish this already, but what's interesting with Putin is throughout his kind of leadership, he has got rid of so many of the people who are threats to him. You look at what's happened to Surovikin, you look at what happened to Prigozhin, you look what's happened to Navalny and Boris Nemtsov, and all these people who were genuine threats to him. They either fall out a window, get poisoned, or go to prison, or all three, or whatever. So what's left is something of a power vacuum. And then people who like to slag off, even soldiers like to slag off Shoigu and to a lesser extent Gerasimov, like these guys are useless, so they say in some circles. And then the question is, why does Putin keep these useless generals around? Well, for very good reason, because they're useless. They're there because they're not a threat to him. If they were a threat, if these were really good, powerful people who are making competent decisions all the time, then there would be pretty good tips for taking over from Putin, maybe before Putin would want that to happen. So he gets rid of those people, and then you have this power vacuum, which means that maybe there are fewer checks and balances in place around him to stop him from doing something a bit nuts. I'm truly going to finish now. Thank you so much. Please like, subscribe and share. Really appreciate all your support. Check out my lovely shiny sign. Thanks to the missus for that birthday present. Hey, it does lots of really cool different colours and modes. The excitement. I just wanted to do this really as an excuse to get my big old face on this. So my slap head on this, just so I can get that in there. Not some tiny little avatar or tiny little face in the screen over there. Anyway, enough babbling. Take care. Really appreciate your support. Toodle Pit. Speak soon.